videos. They are in a playlist called 13 Nights of Halloween 2019. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about another haunted location. This one in a location I have discussed wanting to visit previously, and that is, of course, New Orleans. We're going to talk about the LaLaurie Mansion. Now, this mansion is featured in American Horror Story, but they don't actually feature the correct mansion, and none of the filming is done inside the LaLaurie Mansion. The picture on the thumbnail of this video is the actual mansion located in New Orleans, where the stuff I'm about to tell you about actually happened. I don't believe they do any indoor tours there. I think someone lives there, but you can go on like the ghost tours and visit it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. Now, if you've read anything about ghosts and hauntings in New Orleans, there's not a doubt in my mind that you've heard about this mansion, but maybe you don't know anything about it. So let me tell you. It is one of the most popular stops on the New Orleans ghost tour. Sometimes people in the city won't even call it the LaLaurie Mansion. They choose to refer to 1140 Royal Street as the haunted house. And the fact is, in New Orleans, the two are the same. The French Quarter of New Orleans has long been steeped with tales of ghosts and the occult, and in fact, sometimes the living citizens are more terrifying than the dead. The woman who became the infamous cruel mistress of the haunted house was born Marie Delphina McCarthy, no H. She was born March 19th, 1787, to Louis Chevalier Barthélemy de McCarty. It's a very long name. And Marie Jeannie LaPerle. The McCarthy family was pretty well-to-do, and Delphine was a member of large, wealthy political clan. Her family included military officers, planters, merchants, and they had arrived relatively early during the French colonization period. Many of Delphine's relatives owned and managed extensive real estate and slaves, and as her surname dictates, her family originated in Ireland. Legend has it that the family patriarch fled Ireland to France to escape political and religious tyranny imposed by England's monarchs. The first child of Louis and Marie was also named Louis, and he was born in 1783. Marie followed Delphine, but interestingly, her baptismal record was not entered into sacramental register until December 26th, 1793, almost 5 years after she was born. Generally, the Catholic Church only did this when the infant in question was close to death, but it couldn't find any records of her being sick or having any type of disease. So either she didn't, or they covered it up, or it was the 1700s and no one recorded anything. On June 11th, 1800, Delphine McCarthy married Don Ramon de Lopez y Angulo. So many names, why? He was a high-ranking Spanish officer. They got married at the St. Louis Cathedral, and around 4 years later, they traveled to Spain. Now, the accounts on what occurred on this journey are varying. What we do know is that Don Ramon died in Havana en route to Madrid. I don't know how, but Delphine was not with him when he passed. During the second marriage had some deformities along her spine, and this made her subsequently ill. Louis was hired to cure her daughter. He used all sorts of medical equipment that really looked quite torturous to me. I don't think I'd volunteer for that, but Delphine's daughter did not get better. But Delphine was so enamored with this physician that she convinced him to marry her, even though she was nearly 20 years his senior. In 1831, although very uncommon at the time, Madame LaLaurie purchased property in her own name at 1114 Rue Royale. She proceeded to build the mansion of her dreams, and her husband and daughters moved in as soon as it was finished. While it's pretty modest on the outside, the 3-story building was lavishly decorated inside with carved mahogany wood, massive chandeliers, and fabrics imported from Asia. The mansion housed a separate slave quarter on the top floor. Naturally, Madame LaLaurie's home became the focal point of New Orleans high society. She threw lavish parties at the house and balls, just where guests would show her cousins, the mayor. They would dine on fancy European china and admire the famous artwork on her walls. An invitation to a LaLaurie gala became the most coveted item in town. Can you imagine? Yet, beneath the surface existed an evil mind that would expose itself in due time. Rumors began to spread of Madame LaLaurie's short temper and the terrible mistreatment of her slaves. She was often referred to as the savage mistress. Madame LaLaurie gained a pretty bad reputation for her severe and callous treatment of her slaves. Madame LaLaurie's slaves were often noticed as appearing to look haggard, but in public she was quite polite to people of other races, and she was attentive toward her slaves' well-being in public. She had a visit by local authorities. They were sent to check on her household and make sure that she was following the current laws. Authorities did not find anything amiss, but neighbors continued to suspect that something sinister was happening. Madame LaLaurie's slaves would come and go far too quickly. One day, neighbors heard a commotion in the LaLaurie backyard. Madame LaLaurie's 12-year-old slave, a girl named Lee, had hit a snag while combing her mistress's hair, and Madame LaLaurie was not happy. The older woman chased the girl down into the courtyard, and the girl turned and ran back up to the top floor. Lee backed herself up against the balcony railing in an attempt to avoid punishment, and she ended up falling, although some say she threw herself to the pavement below, where she died. The LaLauries hurried to collect the girl's body and buried her on their property, but the damage to their reputation was done. After word spread of this incident, an investigation was conducted on the LaLauries, where they were found guilty of illegal cruelty. Madame LaLaurie was arrested and forced to let go of 9 slaves. They were put up for auction, and being the powerful, wealthy woman that she was, Madame LaLaurie was able to get off with just a fine. And as for her slaves, she had convinced her relatives to buy them and return them to her, which was a request that they happily obliged. Despite regaining her status as slave mistress, LaLaurie's stature in upper Creole society began to spiral downward. Her neighbors had already lost respect for her and started to decline her lavish party invitations. any slave that was taken up there never returned. Neighbors who had come over to help put out the fire started wondering why Madame LaLaurie's servants were not assisting the fire marshals. And when Madame LaLaurie heard this, she famously replied, "Never mind the servants, save my valuables. This way, gentlemen, this way." But after hearing the old cook's stories, authorities knew they had to keep searching the house. They went to the top floor. They broke down the doors and came face to face with a terrible sight. Over a dozen slaves, chained to a wall, some in cages, many of them suspended by their necks and badly mutilated with various scars. Some had bloody welts. They were living in gruel. They were wearing iron collars with inward-facing spikes. According to newspaper stories, body parts were scattered across the floor. Organs and heads were piled in buckets, and there were still more slaves stretched by their limbs, hanging on for dear life. The nearly helpless servants were carried to the hospital where they received medical treatment, food, and drinks. Nearly 2,000 town people came to view the victims. They were appalled by this sight before them, and they began gathering at the LaLaurie mansion in the expectation that, of course, the sheriff would arrest Delphine. However, the sheriff never came. And as the day went on, it became apparent that any action would not happen. The crowd slowly, as crowds do sometimes, transform into a mob with one angry thought: vengeance. The once helpful group of neighbors morphed into this ferocious mob, appalled at the monstrosities that were committed on their own street. About 4,000 people ransacked the LaLaurie mansion. They looted and pillaged as they went. Everyone was completely enraged and disgusted by Madame LaLaurie's extreme form of punishment. They nearly demolished the mansion in their rage. Madame LaLaurie's husband, Louis, who had ignored his wife's wickedness, of course, had not been home when the fire started. He must have heard about it from somewhere, though, because he left the area and never returned. The criminal herself fled immediately to the port, jumping on a ship and leaving behind the glamour and prestige that she had taken a lifetime to build. Little is known of Delphine LaLaurie after that. Rumors circulated she went to Europe, came back to New Orleans later. Records show that she died in Paris in 1849, although her body was later exhumed and moved back to her hometown. Now, we will probably never really know what happened to Madame LaLaurie in the end. Nonetheless, she became the legend of gore and horror. She moved to Paris to live a quiet, harmless life, possibly. But what had made her do this all those years before? Was it mental illness? Was she a monster? I guess we will never know. Today, ghost stories are still told about the people who died in the LaLaurie mansion. The now private home is a stop on numerous haunted tours. The only evidence that Delphine LaLaurie existed is a simple plaque in the deeply haunted New Orleans cemetery, number 1, and it reads, Madame LaLaurie, maiden name Marie Delphine McCarthy, 7th December 1842. Despite nearly 2 centuries that have passed since the fire in 1834, the events of that year are still told as though they occurred just yesterday. Facts are spun into deep tales of brutality and torture until faces were priceless. No doubt her face was too. Which I think is absolutely crazy. 2 weeks later, at the corner of Governor Nichols and Royal Street, the guide was out on the streets again, bringing another tour around. The LaLaurie mansion was, of course, the main hit, and she had positioned her group under a set of street lights, burnt out for weeks. She launched into the story, but the minute that she said the name, Leah, the lamps flickered on. Everyone in the group paused, and a few yelped. The guide went on with the show, and when she said the name Leah again, the lamps blew out. The light was gone. Was the ghost of Leah still there? Still waiting to be mentioned? Was playing with the lights a method of exposing her presence to the living? I don't know if I believe that there are ghosts at the LaLaurie mansion, but I do believe that when bad things happen, things can kind of stay in a house. I think that, there are energies that stay, and when something like that, I can't even, all those people murdered and tortured and hurt. Okay, the thought of slavery absolutely makes me angry. I've researched, the Underground Railroad. I've been in Underground Railroad tunnels. I was fascinated with Harriet Tubman when I was small. So the fact that anyone could have slaves and treat them in such a way absolutely gets my back up. It makes me so angry that people could treat other people that way. It makes me even more angry when it's because your skin is a different color. But do I think that means that there are ghosts in this house? Maybe there are. Maybe there's not. I don't know. And I think it's the mystery of not knowing that makes it so exciting. Again, I have talked about my other paranormal experiences, including the Underground Railroad tunnel, in some of my other Halloween videos. Check out my spooky playlist if you've not yet. Granted, my camera quality was not so great back then if you're new to my channel, but maybe just don't watch and listen instead. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun researching this. Someday I will make it to New Orleans. Someday. It's on my list. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so glad that you guys have liked some of the unusual videos I've done here on my channel this month. Keep watching. I've got more for you. Thank you so much.